get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. I'm your host, SchuZ Schumaker. So, for those of you guys tuning in for the Vito interview, that will be coming up in about 20-ish minutes. I'm going to get into my personal segments first, and then he's going to hop on to wrap up the show with me. So, once again, he'll be coming out roughly 5:40 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Right around then, I'll go on a quick break and get him into the show. With that being said, though, I hope you guys are having an incredibly blessed Wednesday. Thank you guys all for tuning in. For those of you guys that are tuning in, if you guys have any comments or topics you guys want me to discuss on today's show, put them in the chat. I'll make sure to have those pop up on the TV show so that you guys can go out there and check it out. So let's get right into today's show, though. There is no other way I could possibly start off today's show than by discussing the outrageous acts of what went down now that we know the information by Francisco Rodriguez Jr. And actually, at the whole market of this, I have to hop into the PED issue in boxing right now. Because there have been now two massive cases of PEDs that's now been announced over the duration of the past couple of hours now. We'll start off actually with one. Khataev. He is the guy that's going to be fighting David Morrell on Saturday's Ring Magazine card. He's going to be on the undercard of Berlanga versus Hamza Shiraz. And now that we find out that the International Testing Agency has now said that Imam Khataev was given a 2-year ban after testing positive for clomiphene on April 9, 2024. Okay. This is the first problem I'm going to discuss with his case. You're telling me that an organization is not going to announce a ban for a fighter until 1 year, actually over 1 year, about 1 month and 1 year and 3 months, 15 months or so afterwards. You're now going to announce that positive test? How is that even possible? You're telling me that you had him take a test for the drugs, for PEDs, and you're not going to announce it, not going to look into it, whatever the case may be, until 15 or more months afterwards? What's going on in boxing right now? Is it that difficult to do PED testing? We look at the NBA, we look at the NFL, we look at the MLB, and so on and so forth. There's not these type of issues in any other sport right now. If you test positive, you're positive, and it gets immediately sent out to the league that you're playing in, and you're going to be suspended immediately. Why is it so difficult in boxing for this to be handled appropriately? There is a massive issue right now with PEDs in boxing, and nobody's stopping it. Nothing is being done about this issue in boxing right now. And this stems from all different kinds of people. To begin with, this stems from the people at the top. It stems from the drug testing organizations. This comes from managers, from the promoters, so on and so forth, as well as the boxers, as well as the trainers. This is a large-scale issue right now where everybody's playing a factor into it. Of course, the easy answer here is this. Well, don't test positive for PEDs. Obviously. Don't be doing drugs, fighters. But when you talk about an organizing body coming out and saying that they're not going to announce a positive PED test until 15 months after the test was given, that's ridiculous. There is no excuse for that. The results should be published immediately, within the first couple of days after the fight. And actually, what Devin Haney said earlier today, I thought was brilliant. Fighters should be tested many times, regardless of what's happening, a year. And if even possible, make them be tested 365 days or something around that. Once a week, whatever the case may be. Devin Haney said the 365 idea, but once a week. There's no issue with that. You have NBA athletes get tested randomly countless times throughout the year. They don't know what's coming. All of a sudden, the guy shows up at the door, that they take the PED test, and they get it over with. That's how you keep guys being clean fighters. In boxing, for some reason, nobody seems to know how to understand and handle the situation. It is absolutely ridiculous. So, in terms of Imam, because that's the biggest situation right now in terms of he has a big fight coming up on Saturday. He's fighting David Morrell on the Ring Magazine card. That's a very small card, only 5 fights going down on that card to begin with, and he's one of the massive attractions on that fight card. Therefore, he's already had visa issues, and now you add in this. Here's the idea. I'm just going to break down. There's a large press release given by Eye of the Tiger Promotions, who is his promotion company, and essentially this is the way you sum it up. They say that Imam Khataev tested positive for clomiphene during an April 2024 doping control, which he believes resulted from food contamination during Ramadan, which is key to remember that. He was doing in the midst of Ramadan when this all was going down. They emphasized that the ITA found no evidence of intentional doping and highlighted Khataev's clean record in multiple tests before and after the incident. All right. So, based upon this information we now have and what appears to be the reports, he is only banned from the IBA. Therefore, he's hypothetically cleared to then box as a professional despite being on PED ban from another competition. Okay. Once again, what is wrong with boxing right now? We should not have this many different organizing bodies giving information and taking tests and controlling the doping issue right now. Why are you, or how is it possible that you tested positive for PEDs? One organization is going to suspend you for 2 years. But yet, if you fight for another organization, you're all good right now. There's no issues whatsoever. You're going to go out there and be able to go play without any issues or fight without any issues. Absolutely ridiculous. And once again, this stems from the entire situation by the ITA. They're completely to blame for this as well. Because if this truly was an issue, this should have been announced right after testing happened, back in April 2024, May of 2024 at least, at the latest. There is no excuse for this. And then if you're talking about Imam and Khataev, what's going to happen now? It appears as though he's clean to fight on Saturday's card. But what puzzles me right now is why is the Ring magazine not coming out and giving us details on this? When we look back at the way they completely had every bit of information on the Jake Paul fight, everything from the attendance, everything from every flaw, they were making sure to announce all that quite cleanly. But guess what? For the Ring magazine right now, you have one of your main fighters right now fighting, and he's apparently, as of now, he is suspended because of PEDs for 2 years. We're hearing nothing. Open workouts went on as planned today, and they're not addressing anything. This is a massive thing because if he's not fighting, then you're automatically down to only 4 fights on Saturday's card. And this is a massive fight. And David Morrell would then be left in a very unfortunate predicament. So if you're the Ring magazine, I am shocked and disappointed in the fact that they're not coming out and giving us straight up facts yet. There needs to be clarity here. First of all, is he even going to be able to fight? And if so, what's the reasoning behind that? Because if there are PEDs in his system and he did test positive, that punishment should be upheld regardless of who he's fighting at any point in time. That's a punishment you have to endure. That's my personal thoughts, and that's how you fix boxing in the PED issue to begin with. So who knows what's going to happen there. We'll keep you guys posted if some more details do come out regarding that. But let's hop over now to another massive situation. And in my opinion, the worst situation that came out from the PED issues announced today. That's involving Francisco Rodriguez Jr. We go back. He fought Galal Yafai a couple weeks ago. In that fight, Galal Yafai took a career-altering beating. I've already given my thoughts and I made it very clear. Galal Yafai was failed by his corner. He was failed by his team. He was failed by the referee, so on and so forth. And now we find out that not only were those people failing him in that ring that night, he was going up against a guy that was juiced. And it makes a lot of sense. I'm not someone that's going to accuse somebody until the details come out. Sonny Edwards, on the other hand, had no problem going out there and essentially hinting that he might be on PEDs when he was calling that fight. And now we come out, the details have now been released. Francisco Rodriguez Jr. has tested positive for a banned substance in the post-fight Veda test following his victory over Galal Yafai. This is brutal, brutal news for Galal Yafai. And I'll put this out there real quickly. Anybody that wants to look at these situations revolving a guy getting beat up pretty badly in a fight because of PEDs, there's no difference. When you talk about what Francisco Rodriguez did to Galal Yafai, it's no different than what Ron Garcia did to Devin Haney. And if you want to view Devin Haney differently, then guess what? That's on you, but it's also a ridiculous stance to take. There is no room in boxing for PED use. This sport is dangerous in and of itself. There are countless people that lose their lives in the ring every single year, and you're going to say that it's okay for a guy to be test positive for PEDs? Absolutely not. And what we witnessed now, looking back at it, in England, Birmingham, England, when this went down, is atrocious. It's an absolute atrocity. And I feel horrible for Galal Yafai. Because you look at Galal Yafai, yes, obviously we can look at the fundamentals of boxing. He did not perform well overall. His defense is bad. That's not going to change. Just like for Devin Haney, yes, his defense was not good that night. He still got caught by the hook. But those punches were a lot worse because of the fact that he was on PEDs. And that's the moral of the story right now. He would not have taken the beating in the way in the manner in which he did if it were not for the PEDs. And when you talk about Galal Yafai now, you're looking at a man who was already in his 30s. This was his shot to become a world champion. This was his opportunity. And as I said, his corner and the referee already failed him. He never should have been in the fight for round 10, 11, and 12 to begin with. And on top of that, we learned that he was now taking a beating while he was fighting a man on being juiced up. That's horrible. And I do feel honestly horrible for Gladiator 5 because this is something that is a career-altering injury and kind of fight he wanted to go through. I already made it very clear when I talked about that fight. I didn't know where Gladiator 5 would go from there at that point in time. Now, he deserves to go get another shot at world title. But the biggest question still remains. Is he even going to be a shell of who he was when he stepped foot in that ring just a little bit ago? That's to be determined. I hope and pray that he is going to return and be healthy when he steps back in that ring. But the moral of the story and the fact of the matter is this. He took a massive beating that for most fighters is going to be career altering. To the extent that some people even went out there and were saying that retirement could possibly be on the table for himself because it was that bad of a beating. I hope he's able to return back to who he is. But him being able to stay in that ring does deserve a lot of props. Because if you're Gladiator 5, massive props to you for being able to withstand 12 rounds against Francisco Rodriguez Jr., who was juiced up. He never should have been in that fight from rounds 10 to 12 and on. His corner or the ref should have stopped that fight. But he does have that warrior mentality, and absolutely hats off to that man for withstanding 12 rounds of a man juiced up. The output and the way that Francisco Rodriguez Jr. was fighting that fight, it is clear. PEDs were in use. And now in hindsight, what was done there should be criminal. Absolutely. You cannot be going in the ring on PEDs and fighting a man like that. You could cause life-threatening issues to Gladiator 5 because of what you did. That is some of the worst things to do in boxing. And he should be ashamed of himself. And whoever supplied that, which I'm going to get into next, should be looked into as well. It's absolutely ridiculous what we now witness in hindsight in that fight. And if you're Gladiator 5, he deserves an immediate fight, whether that be a rematch or title shot, whatever the case may be. And on top of that, I just hope he's able to recover. Because what happened in that ring is an absolutely embarrassment to boxing. I said who supplied him with those PEDs. I've been very clear in the past. There is a man that needs to seriously be investigated. And I understand right out the gate that Eddie Reynoso was not his lead trainer in this fight. I'm well aware of that. But the only reason I'm going to bring up Eddie Reynoso is because Francisco Rodriguez Jr., when he wrapped up that fight, who did he shout out? I heard a man by the name of Eddie Reynoso. I feel like that might be a little questionable if you ask me. Because he was that big of a factor where he wanted to go give a shout out to Eddie Reynoso, it makes you wonder what was happening there. Because we can't deny the fact Canelo Alvarez, Oscar Valdez, Julio Cesar Martinez, Luis Nery, Jaime Munguia, this list goes on and on and on of guys that have been associated with Eddie Reynoso and pop positive for PEDs. And if I am somebody that's trying to make rules in boxing right now, I am putting my foot down and saying, listen, we need to investigate what's going on right now. There is absolutely no reason this many people with ties to Eddie Reynoso keeps popping positive for PEDs. And if that so is the case, then there needs to be legitimate investigation into Eddie Reynoso. And if he's clean, he's clean. But if not, there needs to be serious punishments for Eddie Reynoso. Because what he's doing is one of the most evil things you can possibly do in boxing. It is a disgrace to the sport. He has accomplished great things for boxing. But if you're going to supply or help out, whatever the case may be, these guys with PEDs, you are a problem. And that is something that cannot be tolerated in boxing. So he needs to seriously be investigated as well. How do you possibly fix this PED issue in boxing right now? In my opinion, punishment must now be handed down to everybody involved in these situations. Trainers, managers, promoters, whatever it is. Whether that be fighters as well, of course, be punishments, suspensions from the sport of boxing, fines, whatever the case may be, there needs to seriously be punishments for PEDs. And how about we even throw this in? Instead of the lame little 1 year off that you get from boxing, how about we up that to 2, 3, maybe even 4 years? I get that might seem very harsh, but if the punishment is that harsh, a lot more boxers are no longer going to try to go do it. And that's a fact. And we're at a point now in boxing where so many guys are having legitimate issues with PEDs that it's time to seriously investigate this and put an end to it. How many more boxers have to take serious critical damage in their fights for us to finally put our foot down and say, no more. Enough is enough. I feel like we're long past this. It's long overdue. And so, yes, the punishments that I just discussed, those are very harsh. But at this point in time, I don't care anymore. If you pop positive for PEDs and it's proven that you were purposely trying to take them, then you deserve a full-on punishment of a very extensive, very harsh punishment. And hopefully that scares every other boxer moving forward from taking them. There is no room in boxing for them. It is a disgrace to the sport for these guys to keep being on PEDs. And I hope they put an end to this now. Going back to Galileo Fight real quickly. It's unfortunate, I've said time and time again, what happened to him in that ring. I do hope he gets another shot. But ultimately, above that, I do hope he takes what he needs to do in terms of health. I hope he's able to win, either that be a court battle, that be something where he can get financially rewarded. But on top of that, he does what's best for himself and his health. Because what happened in that ring was dangerous. That was a brutal, brutal fight. One of those brutal fights I've seen in a while. That situation right there causes damage to yourself, both inside and outside of the ring. As much as it sucks to say that, that's the type of fight he went through. And it now makes sense about why the damage looks so evident in that fight. So hopefully we can have things come to fruition. He gets properly rewarded, or he gets an immediate rematch, whatever it might be, or a chance at a world title. Because in my opinion, Francisco Rodriguez, he should be thrown out of the sport for a long time. I don't think he deserves a rematch. That's just up to me, though. I'm going to get into a couple other things here, one of which is we're going to stay in the UK. The British Boxing Board of Control found Chris Eubank Jr. not guilty of using a sauna on the day of the weigh-in. Great. That fine situation is now out the window. But they're not finished yet. But Eubank was guilty of improper use of social media and thus fined 10,000 euros for the infraction. What in the world? Listen, there's a lot of good things that the BBBofC does. Some of these rules, though, are absolutely outlandish. I'm sorry. First of all, you're going to investigate the guy for sauna use, which in and of itself, that rule is ridiculous. Secondly, you're going to look into a guy for the way he utilized social media in the midst of that process. Once again, ridiculous. What's the point of this? Are we little kids right now? Are we really going to put limits and restrict guys from what they're going to do on the social media? I'm sorry. There is massive issues when we talk about politically in England and stuff like that, but this type of thing is ridiculous. You're going to control what a guy is doing on his social media account, and you're going to fine him as a BBBofC? What in the world are you doing? This is one of the stupidest fines I've seen in boxing. He never did anything that was that bad. There was absolutely no reason for this to be a case. And if you're the BBBofC, you need to seriously remove this. Take back that fine. If Chris Eubank Jr. has no business paying that fine, why? 10,000 euros because of the way he utilized social media? That is one of the stupidest fines that I've ever seen in boxing. This is a sport where you have some guys out there saying some of the most crazy, outlandish things that you could ever imagine somebody saying coming out of their mouth. They tweet them out, they post them on Instagram, whatever the case may be. There's no fine for that. You're going to fine him for how he broadcast himself or covered himself in the midst of his fight week, build up for the Conor Ben fight. Absolutely ridiculous. The BBBC needs to get a grip on themselves because there's absolutely no reason for that. Let's hop over now to a couple things regarding the Gary Russell situations now. Gary Russell Jr. is making his return on the Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios fight card, and he announced this, that him and Mark Magsayo have verbally agreed to run back the controversial 2022 bout. That would be huge. Gary Russell's back. I'm excited to see him back in that ring on the Manny Pacquiao undercard. Both those guys will be on the card, and I'm assuming that if both guys come out with a win, they will be rematching each other later this year, early 2026. Big time fight right there. He also revealed that his brother, Gary Antoine Russell, is expected to return to the ring in October, according to his trainer, Gary Russell Jr. Russell recently told Brunch Boxing that he would like to see Gary Antoine unify with the Puello Matias winner. Andy Hiriaka is the backup option. All right, I absolutely love that. Remember, we're going to see Puello and Matias fighting each other this weekend. My way too early prediction is that Matias will win that fight. So therefore, we could have a unification between Gary Antoine Russell and Matias. Beautiful fight right there. That would be perfect. If not, I know because Gary Antoine Russell was on this show a couple months ago. He wants the Albert Puello because of obviously that's being his very first career loss. I wouldn't mind seeing that one either, but I do believe Matias wins that fight, and it would make for an incredible unification between those two guys. Worst situation, Andy Hiriaka. Not a bad situation as well. Also a good fight. So I like what I'm hearing right there. Gary Antoine Russell's return to the ring would be fun to see. Let's hop into a couple more things before I go to a quick break and we get Vito up and onto the show. There was a post that came out in regards to Super Matias having a 100% KO ratio by DAZN. And most boxing fans gave their thoughts on the situation, and I agree. Have we really misinterpreted the meaning of a 100% KO ratio? I mean, I'm a little bit dumbfounded here. He lost a fight. He stepped into a ring, went through a boxing fight, did not get the KO. How in the world would you give him a 100% KO ratio? Like, I didn't think this was ever something we debated here. And the only reason I'm bringing this up is because it was talked about a lot in the boxing community. You don't have a 100% KO ratio if you don't have a KO in your fight. Now, if you were to specify and say he has a 100% KO ratio in his wins, that's fine. Still a weird stat, but it's accurate. But to have a 100% KO ratio is ridiculous when you have lost a fight in which you did not obviously KO your opponent. So I just want to make that very clear right there. I do not understand how you're going to give a KO ratio to a guy that has a loss. I thought this was a very clear and evident thing, and I feel like most boxing fans do agree with the situation. But seriously, I don't know if that was just some social media person that does not know boxing very well or whoever posted that thing. But listen, just for those that do not know right now, and I see your comment, Adam, KO ratio should be how many KOs you have, not how many fights you have. Let me read that real quick. KO ratio should be how many KOs you have, not how many fights you have. I do agree with that portion there. Obviously, when you talk about KOs, yes. But when you step foot in a ring, at the end of the day, that's a fight. Your KO ratio should be overall by how many fights you have when you step in the ring, in my opinion. I think when you're talking about an overall situation where you're going to go out there and fight someone, that's still in the rate. That still is your ratio. When you look at your record, you're still going to have that loss or a draw or a win. There's something that's going to happen. And when you talk about KO ratio, if you're going to just specify and say KO ratio for for your amount of wins you have in your career, that's a little bit different. But KO ratio as a whole would be a statistic that you'd have to involve all fights you've been a part of. And that's just my opinion there. Let's hop over to a couple more things. I'm going to get into two more topics, and then I'm going to add Vito in here to wrap up the show today. One of which is in regards to Boots-Ennis. Now, Boots-Ennis and Vergil Ortiz have been going back and forth for quite some time now. We've been discussing this time and time again. This is the big fight to make. We all wanted to see it at 147. It did not happen. We all want to see it now at 154, and I feel like this is the time it will happen. However, I've made this very clear. I don't think we're going to see this fight until mid to late 2026. And that's fine for me. I would much rather see this fight happen when both guys are world champions and they can then unify, which I've already given the outline for that. It's very possible that occurs. So the problem here is that Boots-Ennis and Vergil Ortiz were made multiple offers for this fight to happen. But according to Vergil Ortiz Jr., he said that Boots wants 2 tune-up fights before fighting Vergil Ortiz. Seriously? I love Boots-Ennis. I think Boots-Ennis is spectacular. I think he's one of the future faces of the sport. 2 tune-up fights, I get 1. I have no problem with that. Go get your tune-up fight. Just get it acclimated 154, get a nice win underneath your belt, and then go fight for a world championship. We don't need just a random guy to go fight there 2 times. Boots is more than enough skilled. He's more than talented enough. He can go out there and take care of business after 1 tune-up fight. I hope we do not see him step foot in that ring twice in bad fights. We all know this too about Boots. Boots-Ennis fights better when he's fighting good opposition. He always rises to the occasion. When he has to fight guys that he does not want to be in that ring with, he clearly lacks a lot of his stuff. I feel like he drops the level which he fights at badly when he fights the guys that are lesser than him. We saw it when he fought a guy when he was motivated in Montestantionis. We saw the way he fought. One of his career best performances. And then we look at other fights where it's like he does not want to be in there, and it's very clear as well. That's why I'll emphasize this. If you're a Boots-Ennis, just do 1 tune-up fight, get that easy win, and go make big fights. He's more than ready for 154. Go do your job and take care of business there. The last thing. Now, I will be giving you guys a full fight preview of this Saturday's cards on Friday's show. As for the women's card going down on Friday, I'll be breaking that down tomorrow, just FYI. But there seems to be one fight, and let me just make this clear real quickly. The best, most noteworthy fight happening on Saturday's ring card is Shakur-Stevenson versus Eubank. I don't get why they're not having that be main event. I know obviously it's the Tom and Jerry stuff, blah, blah, blah. Listen, the fight that's being the most talked about right now is Zepeda Shakur. The biggest name between all the guys on this card is Shakur-Stevenson. I don't understand why you're giving to Edgar Berlanga, who I believe is a guy that's more looked at as a clown than he's looked at as being a serious, legitimate, top, well-known brand. And then Hamza Shiraz, who is coming to America, and he's a decent name in the UK, but a lot of Americans don't know who he is. I don't get why we're giving him the main event. Obviously, I believe it has to do with Turkey al-Sheikh, but that's just another thought there I want to give. Let's break down the Shakur versus Williams-Zepeda fight. I'm just going to keep it 100 with you guys. I genuinely do not believe that this is going to be a competitive fight. I feel like Shakur Stevenson has every advantage in the world against Zepeda. I'm not going to use the triangle theory that some people talked about, and they want to go out there and say, hey, listen, Zepeda is this man that, lost or beat Tevin Farmer, and then Tevin Farmer got KO by Floyd. No, I'm not looking at that. I'm just looking at the facts. Whether you like or dislike Shakur Stevenson is one of, if not the best defensive fighter in all boxing right now. Zepeda does not have great KO power. He can overwhelm you and go on the attack, but he does not have excellent one-punch KO power. And if you're just going to go punch a million times in a round like he likes to do, I don't think that's going to impact Shakur too often. And that's assuming that he even lands stuff on Shakur. Now, I do feel like Zepeda will probably have a little bit higher connect ratio than a lot of fighters do against Shakur, but Shakur is still going to dominate that fight. I really don't see a pathway that Zepeda is going to win this fight. It's boxing, so I'm not going to say it's a 100% guarantee for Shakur. Anything can happen when you step foot in that ring. But at the very same time, Shakur has every advantage in the world. I'm not going to predict a KO. I think it's possible, but that's not what I'm going to do. I think Shakur Stevenson wins by decision. And I quite frankly don't see how so many people out there believe that Zepeda is not going to go out there and somehow is going to go out there and upset Shakur Stevenson. As I said, yes, anything can happen in boxing. But this is not a fight that I'm going to put any money on. If you're somebody legitimately putting money on Zepeda to defeat Shakur Stevenson, all the power to you. But you're probably going to be losing that money on Saturday night. And that's just a fact. I will be breaking down that fight much more extensively in the very near future. Obviously, on Friday's show, I'll break that down more in depth. But I just seen so much debate about this. I just want to make that clear. I don't think Zepeda has a chance against Shakur Stevenson. And I'm not going to say this is going to discredit Shakur for a win there. But listen, I don't feel like this is the massive mega fight that so many people are making out to be. It's the best realistic fight for Shakur to fight right now. This fight had to happen, but it's not a massive mega fight. I've said this time and time before. I only see Shakur Stevenson possibly losing to Tank Davis at 135. Only guy. Those two guys would be a legitimate 50-50 fight. Obviously, Tank Davis had his issue with Lamont Roach. I feel like he will come back much better in the second rematch there, but I don't feel like Zepeda is that guy. He is a tier below a Shakur Stevenson, or a couple tiers below, I'd say, Shakur Stevenson, Tank Davis, and hypothetically, when I made this comment before, even a Keyshawn Davis. But he is probably even below the Floyd Schofield, Abdullah Mason tier, in my opinion. He is a good fighter, but he's not that guy. And I feel like it's going to be exposed on Saturday once again. For those of you that did not realize that against Tevin Farmer, it will be exposed on Saturday night. Maybe I'll be wrong, but I'm willing to put a lot of money on that. I don't bet, but I do see that fight going quite clearly Shakur Stevenson's way. 100% agree with you, Adam. Yeah, Zepeda does not have great defense either. We know how he's going to fight. He is a one-trick pony in the sense that he's going to go out there and he is going to throw a gazillion punches in a round and just try to overwhelm you. He's going to try doing that. He has incredible stamina. I will give him that. His stamina is incredible. I will give him full props for that. But that stamina, I don't think is going to work against a guy like Shakur Stevenson. It barely got him past Tevin Farmer in the first fight, and if Tevin Farmer didn't get hurt in the second fight, who knows what happens. It's not going to work against Shakur Stevenson. We'll see what happens on Saturday. With that being said, though, I'm going to go on a very short break. I'm going to get Vito up and onto the show. Hopefully we'll be back on live in about 2 to maybe 5 minutes max. We'll get Vito in here, then wrap today's show with that interview. I'll see you guys very shortly. I appreciate you for tuning in again, Adam, and I'll see you guys in just a couple of short minutes. God bless you guys. Welcome back to the SchuZ Show, everybody. I'm your host, SchuZ Schumaker. Joining me now is a man that holds a 21 1-1 record with 12 KOs. He's currently the WBO's number 10 ranked middleweight contender, and he goes by the nickname White Magic. That's Vito Mielnicki. Vito, appreciate you taking time to come on today, man.
I appreciate you having me on. I know it's been a hectic day trying to get me on here, but we got it done.
Absolutely, man. Well, first things first, I have to ask you this one question. You go by the nickname White Magic. What's the backstory behind that?
Yeah, so I got my nickname White Magic from K Karoma, head coach K Karoma.
Okay.
I don't know if you know. You should know who K is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was fighting. I was like 9 years old, probably. In the amateurs, I was fighting one of his fighters at one of the shows in Jersey, and I beat one of his guys. And after the fight, he really just put his arm around me and he was like, "You know what? From now on, we'll call you White Magic." And then I made it my Xbox gamer tag. And then just yeah, like I said, it stuck.
I love that. Well, let's get into your most recent fight. It was an incredible performance. I know we'll talk about your Conor Coyle fight a little bit later on, but obviously you even talked about that after that. It wasn't the fight you wanted to go out there and fight. I feel like you made your good redemption in your most recent fight against Camille. Walk us through this a little bit, though. Do you feel like that was a great performance? Do you feel like that was the night you wanted to have?
Yeah, definitely. It was more just a great performance in my eyes because we did exactly what we wanted to in terms of what we did in the gym.
Right.
I didn't, veer away from the game plan. Coach Ronnie and I, we had a game plan, and I feel as though we mastered it throughout the camp, throughout sparring, and I did exactly that all 10 rounds. It
Mm-hmm.
was a sweep. Of course, you would want to get this guy out of there, but he's a tough guy from Poland. These guys are tough. He came to win. No guy comes halfway across the country with his whole family. 20 different people in his shirt coming there to lose. This guy came to win, and we shut it all down right from the get go and dominated 10-0 and dropped him in the third round as well.
Right. When you look back at that fight, I'm sure you've now broken it down, watched some film on it. What were some takeaways from yourself? Is there something that you looked at and said, okay, I still can get better in this area. I want to improve going forward here?
Yeah, always. Coach Ronnie and I, when I get back down to Houston, we'll sit down and watch the fight.
Okay.
But I've watched it several times as well. I definitely do think, it would have been great to get this guy out of there. But just little things that, I could tell in my defensive game, little things on the inside. I felt as though I used my jab really well. I showcased my legs a lot towards the end, like the last 2 rounds. There was a lot that I did well, but a lot that I could also work on. I'll look it over with Ronnie, and then I'll go from there.
When you get a headline, a fight back home, how special is that?
Man, it's truly a blessing to be able to, be at the Prudential Center where I used to go to as a kid,
Right.
and watch big fights, watch basketball games, watch concerts. But for it to be my name on the big stage, main headline, man, it's truly a blessing. A kid from Jersey fighting at the Prudential Center, Essex County area where I'm from. It's just extremely, just like I said, a blessing because I see all my supporters from around where I live, my supporters from gyms I used to go to growing up,
Mm.
everyone there, to support me. Um, God's plan is great, and I'm going to continue to walk on the path that He has paved for me for sure.
I love what you just said there, and I actually want to follow up on that. When you talk about your relationship with God, how big has that been helping you get to where you're at today?
Man, I feel as though I dove deeper into my faith in the last like year and a half for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, obviously growing up, made my communion, made my confirmation, was baptized, obviously, and grew up in a Catholic household. Not like a very practicing Catholic household. Like didn't go to church every Sunday,
Sure.
but I feel as though when you go through a lot in life, certain things the last few years I've been going through,
Mhm.
you find that relationship with Him, and I realized that I could surrender a lot to Him and everything to Him, and I'm basically just walking on the path that He already has paid for me. My plan is already set in stone. I'm basically just living in it.
You talk about that transformation in a sense, and that has to be the case for everybody. At some point, you're always going to reach that point where it's like, you know what? It can't be my parents' faith. It can't be those people. It has to be my own personal relationship.
Yeah.
As you've seen that now settle into yourself and become, your own personal relationship, how would you say this now changed you as who you are as a person, both inside and even outside of the ring?
Yeah, like I said, like just living my life freely, just
Mhm.
being where my 2 feet are, not looking too far ahead, not looking back in the past, just being right where I am in the present and enjoying every moment.
I love that. Now, you're 23 years old, Vito, and you've already, going back to it, you're headlining at a place that you probably dreamed of as a kid growing up to headline in. When you talk about already accomplishing some of these things that you've done at this early of an age, what else are some future goals you have for yourself? Where do you want to see yourself go from now after already everything you've done?
Yeah, I mean, this is just the beginning. So,
Mm,
I'm 23 years old. I've been fighting since I'm 7. Had
right.
a deep amateur background. But I'm a young vet in the boxing in the professional ranks. Like I turned pro at 17. I'm 23 now. I'm 21, 1-1. I'm ranked across the board at 160 now with belts, these like ranking belts or whatever you want to call them. And I'm looking to step into bigger fights.
Mm.
Whether that's against former world champions, whether that's against contenders coming up. I'm looking to step into bigger fights, and just keep climbing the ladder.
What are some of those fights you have eyed? Personally, for myself, I look at two fights that make a lot of sense within the top ranked branch. Jahai Tucker's in the mix right there, Troy Isley. I know those two seem like fights that would be very fun to watch. Are those fights on your radar, or who are some guys that you're kind of looking at right now?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Obviously, you see those guys in the top ranks. Obviously, down the line, top rank's gonna want to make those fights. My team and I, we haven't sat down, but obviously in the future, top rank's gonna want to make those fights regardless,
All right.
whether I want them, whether he wants them anyway. So it's gonna happen regardless. Um, I don't really nitpick guys. Like, you know what I mean? I'm not looking. It's just anyone who they want to present me and who makes sense
Hmm.
money wise, everything makes sense for my ranking. I want my team to sit down. I'll fight anybody. I've been fighting since I'm 7 years old, but at this point in my career, it's got to make sense.
I love that. All right, so I do want to get into your story though. People get to know you a little bit better, and you talk about one portion already. 7 years old, you started boxing, and now correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe that you come from a family of wrestlers. You watched the Floyd Mayweather fight, and that kind of motivated you. Your dad ends up signing you up for boxing, and all of a sudden you get in a position where you're going to the middle of a basement of an old vacant church in Newark. Can you take us through this now? Like, what was it about boxing that so appealed to you? Said, you know what? I'm 7 years old. I want this thing.
Yeah, I mean, it was very weird because, like we talked about football, I mean, I told you my brother, but football was my
Right.
favorite sport. Probably still is.
Really? Okay.
Football is like probably still my favorite sport. I'm a diehard Jet fan, so
All right.
that in itself, I mean, if I'm dedicated to them, you know what I mean. They're not the greatest, but hey, we're coming up. But at that age, it was just like I came from a suburb in New Jersey and Newark, New Jersey. Whoever knows Newark, like where I was at Jamar Carter Project Turnaround, it ain't the nicest area. I'll
Right.
tell you that. So like when I went down there, it was like a little bit of like a shock to me. Like, oh wow, like I'm outside the bubble wrap. Like this is
Mm.
what it looks like outside. And the guys in there brought me in as family. It was like just by the third, fourth day, I didn't want to step out of that gym, and I fell in love with it. Just the atmosphere, the environment, um, just looking at these guys like my older brothers that are in the gym. You know what I mean? I'm 7 years old. These guys are 15, 16, 17, 18 years old. Just we're laughing in the gym, having a good time. Just fell in love with it, became a gym rat, and haven't looked back since.
When you talk about the one aspect that you go there, and also correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe you also didn't like the first couple of days. It ended up
Yeah.
settling down for yourself day 4 or 5 or whatever it was. What was the turning point? Why did you all of a sudden say, you know what, I like this thing now?
I think just because I got comfortable, you know what I mean? I
Mm,
realized that I was in there and these guys accepted me. I think that
right.
these guys like they seen let's put it straight just they seen a little white kid coming down in there. Not many of them going down there fighting boxing,
Right.
and they see me willing to put in the work. A kid that was just taking it all in, and even just me getting comfortable with the coaches. Like the first coach I had, he was like screaming in my face, like there was like spit flying out of his mouth, like and like I'm in there like bawling my eyes out, like get me out of here. And then my dad, he had signed me up for 30 days, and I told him after like the first or second day, I was like, listen, I'm not going back, I'm done. And
Mm.
he was like, "Oh, I signed you up for 30 days. Like you're finishing in 30 days." And thank God he said it because I wouldn't be here today.
All right. When you are 7 years old and you talk about the fact that football still probably even is your favorite sport, Did it ever cross your mind to say, hey, what if I go take football a little serious? Do I kind of balance this out? Or what made you commit to boxing overall for your life?
Yeah, I think I realized that, like, hey, I'm good at this. You know what I mean? I'm
Mm,
winning national titles.
right.
I'm competing at a high level. I'm getting better daily. I'm committing a lot of time, a lot of sacrificing a lot of time to this sport. And also I broke my arm in like seventh or eighth grade playing football,
Gotcha.
and my dad basically said, "Listen, you got to choose one," and I did. I chose boxing, and man, it was a decision that I honestly wish I could have played high school ball. You know what I mean? Because I
Mm.
was a good football player, but looking back at it now, look where I'm at now. Hey, I think we made the right decision.
Why did you make that decision at that point in time?
What my why
Yeah,
I chose boxing?
yeah. Like, why would you say you chose boxing at that point in time over football?
Because football, like, I have a team of not 10 other guys with me on the field.
Right.
Boxing, it was more of like I control my own destiny. Like if I'm putting
Mm,
in the work, I'm putting in the time. On fight night, it'll show. And
gotcha.
I feel as though like when I'm in there one on one, it's just me and another guy. If I can control the fight by doing what I do in the gym, working hard, sacrificing, doing what I got to do, then on fight night it'll show. And I felt like that aspect, I think, really lured me in.
When would you say it started to settle down for yourself when you said, you know what? I'm not just going to do this because I like boxing. I'm going to be very successful. I can become the type of fighter that you are today. When did that start to become a reality for yourself?
Probably like 14 or 15 years old.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's where like you start to, spar higher level guys. Like obviously
Mm,
at like 9, 8, 9, 10, 11, like even 12 years old, like you're good, you're sharp. But then like all these guys start to get better too. So
right.
um it was just at that point, probably like 14, 15, where I was still winning. I was still, proving that I belong at the top. I was still number one in the country. I made the junior Olympic team at 16 years old,
Mm.
going to the Olympic Training Center. And it was at that time where I was like, yeah, well, this is what I'm going to do.
You know, I don't know if this story is 100% accurate either, but I believe that when you were 7 years old, you started really pursuing boxing, that your dad altered your birth certificate so you could go in there and fight against 9-year-olds. Is that correct?
That is true.
All right.
That
Well,
is all correct. My dad put white out on my birth certificate, and I was fighting against like 8 and 9 year olds at 7. But like at 7, you're way different than you were at 9. Like you know what I mean? Like that's a big like gap, like because they're that growing stage. So yeah, that's definitely a true story.
All right, so you have to take us through that now. Having your dad put that much trust in you and saying, you know what, we're going to get you in at this young of an age. How much better did that make you down the road then?
It made me a lot better. Even just in the gym, like my dad didn't care. If you know my dad, like he puts me in there with anybody. Growing
Mm,
up, he put me in there with anybody, and he knew I could hold my own. I'm a Mielnicki, you know what I mean? So
right.
that's how we looked at it, and hey, it worked out. And like I said again, look where we are now.
All right, so let's go through your amateur career. Just to name a couple accolades: four-time junior national Golden Glove champion, you're a member of the USA national team, and so many other things you accomplished. When you look back at that time of your life, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Having fun. I
Mm,
I was like really having fun. I think at the point in like a professional career, you could start to like lose that.
mm,
I feel like this past camp, I really found that again. You know what I mean? Like in camp, I was having fun. Like I was
right.
enjoying it. I was just like a little kid in the gym again. And with all the money involved now, with everything else involved, it could become like more of like a job. But
Hmm.
I think you got to make it just you got to have fun because once you stop having fun with it, you got to be done with it.
Mm.
And I think that's where I'm at now.
That's an interesting statement you made right there because, I've had different people on before and they talk about, we need to start putting more money into amateur ranks. And I think that could obviously be a legitimate case. Guys do need to start getting paid money so they stop going to other sports for boxing. But when you talk about that, it keeps it more fun. You're still a kid. It's not this business aspect now. Is that something that you would say, if there
Yeah.
was more finances able to be given to amateurs, is that a good thing that's not that much right now? Or do you think there still should be some money put into amateurs?
It depends. I think at like that high level, like at that like Olympic level.
Right.
I know, and even like the youth team, like I know that they're paying guys if they win tournaments. Like, I think at that level it's okay, and I think
Okay.
even staying at the Olympic Training Center, like that's basically like a job. Like there's kids working at 16, 17 years old
Right.
making money. So if I'm staying at the Olympic Training Center and you're telling me I got to stay here, then yeah, they should be getting a stipend
Agree.
or something like that.
How do you then balance when you talk about the aspect of saying, you kind of lost your love for a little bit there as a pro? You're dealing with all these other aspects to the pro game. What keeps you in, and how did you find your love again for the sport?
Man, just like I said, just trying to block out all the other BS that
Mm.
comes with it. It's more than it's just a business at this point. Like,
Right.
and I think just trying to find just like doing what you love again, not worrying about everything that comes with it, not the baggage that comes with it. Just remembering why you started, and
Mhm.
I feel like that alone made me realize like, hey, I'm ready to have fun with this again,
Right.
and I feel like even in my performance, you could definitely tell. Like at the end, I was barely even breathing hard at the end. Like I enjoyed myself. I was having fun in there,
Mhm.
and obviously being at home, there could be a lot of pressure involved. But I was so locked in and just having fun. When you have fun, everything else like it just works. Everything else just clicks. So, and that's how I felt like it was on fight night.
How long did that drought where you weren't quite sure how much you love boxing? How long was that? Was that dating back to the Conor Coyle fight before then, or when did that start to kind of happen for yourself?
It wasn't like about the love. It was just like became so serious. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Okay.
obviously it's serious, but it's like you don't lose the love for it, but it's just like you realize what comes with it.
Mm.
But also going through a lot of stuff in my personal life, probably like the last year and a half, 2 years. Um, so probably like yeah, 2 years, like year and a half, 2 years, where it's been, going through some stuff, but hey, look where we're at. You know what I mean? I'm
Mhm.
blessed. I'm doing what I love, and obviously I'm making money.
Right.
I own properties as a 23-year-old. Like I'm blessed. I'm extremely blessed. So just enjoying the journey every step of the way. Just you know, God is great throughout it all.
Absolutely, man. All right, so let's go into your pro debut. You're 17 years old. You make that jump quite early on for yourself. You could have hypothetically made your mix into the Olympic run. Why did you choose to go pro right at the gate and not pursue the Olympics?
Yeah, I wasn't gonna wait till I was till 2024 because
Right.
at my age, I think the cutoff, like I missed the cutoff.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I was like, nah, I'm not waiting till 2024. And then also, my last fight as an amateur was in Spain. And I remember, like, I was already done with the amateurs, and I was like, man, I really like I was burnt out from the amateurs. Like, it was a lot of going to tournaments,
Mm.
putting in the work, taking the time every day, coming home, going from school, going straight to the gym, staying at the gym all night, and then I go to tournaments and like the politics in amateurs. Obviously, there's politics in professional ranks too, but
Yeah.
and the amateurs sucked. And I was going there, I was winning fights, and I was loot, and I wasn't getting my hand raised. So I went to Spain and I fought one of the best amateur fights I've ever fought. Like I fought a kid from Spain in Spain at the tournament,
Hmm.
and they raised his hand in the first round of the tournament. And I was like, man, I'm done with this. I even told my dad, I was like, I'm gonna go play senior year of football because I was like, let me go. I'm done with the amateurs. I was like, let me go play senior year of football.
Mm.
And then it just so happened that I was getting lifting, it's a whole different workout than it is boxing for football. So I
Yeah.
wasn't in boxing shape, but I was lifting, putting on weight, ready to go out and play running back, safety, and ready to put the shoulder pads on, the helmet on, going into senior year. And then we got a call that we had an opportunity to be the youngest ever to turn pro in Jersey on a top ranked show at the Prudential Center and make my pro debut. And we decided to go that route at 17 years old. What a blessing that was. And yeah, that was a crazy night, and that was a crazy 6 weeks of my life. I only had 6 weeks to get ready for my pro debut. I cut from like 185 to like 147 because I was like getting ready to play football, and then we got the call for the pro debut, and we ended up going that route. Never ended up playing football, but like I said again, look where we are now.
All right, you have to elaborate a little bit more because I have no idea about that story there. So you're telling me then that at 17, you didn't know if you're going to continue boxing, whatever the case might have been. But regardless, you were set on playing at least your senior year of football at that point.
Yeah, so I was planning on boxing, but I was just planning on let me go out and have my last year of football. You know what I mean? Let me go play senior year of football, take a few months and go play, and then obviously turn pro later on. But I was like, it was like May. Yeah, it was probably like the end of May, like Memorial Day weekend, and I was getting ready to play, go out, start practicing with the team, like practice with the quarterback, work on stuff, and it was like 6 weeks before my debut. My pro debut was on July 13th of 2019. It was probably like first day of June or last few days of May. And we got a call. My dad was like, "Hey, like, there's an opportunity for you to make your pro debut at the Prudential Center
Hmm.
on July 13th." I'm like, "Are you serious?" Like, bro, I haven't been in the gym in like 2 months. Like, I'm getting ready to play football, running back. Like, I'm in a whole different state. Like, I'm not. I was like, absolutely not. He was like, just think about it. And I thought about it. Took me like a few minutes, not even. And I was like, this guy's crazy, but yeah, let's do it. And then we got the consent from New Jersey because nobody ever turned pro in Jersey at 17 before me. I was the first
Right.
ever to turn pro at 17 in Jersey.
Hmm.
Um, and then my pro debut was a movie. Got ready for that. Made Sports Center top 10. Those few days after my pro debut were like a movie. Like when I tell you, like my Instagram went from like 1,000 followers to like 20 something thousand followers, and then like people are noticing me. I'm getting contract deals from Golden Boy, Matchroom, Top
Right.
Rank, Al Heyman, and obviously I went the Al Heyman route, and Al Heyman's still my advisor to this day. But those few days, I was going to Everlast headquarters. Like I was one of the like I was the hottest prospect out at that point.
Hmm.
Coming off that debut, seeing the amount of tickets I sold like 2,500, 3,000 tickets at my pro debut.
Wow.
Um, and promoters obviously love that. They like asses in the seats, and I was a hot commodity, and they all offered me contracts. And I obviously went to Al Heyman for like I think it was 19 or 20 fights, and then obviously made the move to come over to Top Rank.
All right, so I have to dissect a couple of pieces you talked about there. The first one is obviously in the U.S. you have to be 18 to turn pro. Now, if you have special permission, I know there is a way to do it. You obviously did that. How was that process? How were you guys able to get in the ring and do a pro fight at 17 in the U.S.?
Yeah, Commissioner Larry Hazard. I thank him every time I see him because he was the one who got this started for me.
Right.
I think he just realized, my amateur accolades. He's from Jersey. He's just seen me at all these fights growing up, and he knew what I was capable of, and he gave me the go ahead and the green light to go ahead and turn pro at 17.
And then the other aspect, let's say you were to go to play football. You played your senior year out and things went well. Is there a chance that at that point in time you maybe never would have went pro in boxing?
I don't know because I don't know how that would have worked. I don't know if colleges like look at a kid just coming on as a senior. Like, man, if I had an opportunity to play college ball at a big school, it would have been hard to tell me no. That's for sure.
Really?
But yeah, I think boxing is just I was born to do this.
Right.
I'm destined. This is my destiny, and this is my ultimate path. And man, I'm extremely blessed to be in the position I am now, and I'm extremely blessed that how it worked out the way it did.
That was kind of my second question I want to follow up on. Let's say hypothetically, we're looking at May, June-ish time of, your senior year, which would have been right around there. You have an offer to play at whatever school you want in the entire country for college football, or you turn pro and have the same opportunity. Obviously, it would be a little bit later on, but same opportunity for pro. Which one are you taking?
You're the first person who ever asked me this, bro. So I like this though, because I never get these questions. I usually get like all the basic questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, man, it's tough, but because it would have been tough to turn down an education. Like I didn't go to school. I still haven't went to college.
Right.
Um, an education and an opportunity to play the game I love. I think I would have. I think I would have probably went to school and played college football, but I would have found my way back to boxing.
I like that answer.
Like because like I said, like this is what I was born to do. Like
Hmm.
um, my love is football, but is that me just loving it to watch it on Sundays? Like you know what I mean? Like
Good point.
who
Yeah.
knows? Like that's it. I love football. Like I love every part of football, and but like I said, that would have probably been it. I would probably went if I was successful enough, like in college, like to go to the NFL.
Yeah.
Boy, let me tell you, I would have been fired up. But yeah, I don't know. That I would probably went to college, played college ball, but ultimately found my way back to boxing. I would be in this.
Mm.
I would be working my way up to this position because obviously the timeline would have worked out. But I would have been working my way up to be in the position I am now.
All right, so then you would say, okay, you take that opportunity. Obviously, we do the overall aspect, but you talk about going back to it. You said football overall. Sorry, football would be your favorite sport. You still like to watch. So if you're watching TV over on the weekends and there's a Jets game going on or a big boxing match, which one are you watching?
Jets game
Okay.
for sure. I'm watching a Jets game. Um, that's my squad. Yo, that's my team. I'm
All right.
watching a Jets game for sure. I watch enough boxing.
I do like that answer too because I feel like so many guys, and obviously there's nothing wrong, with guys that go all in on one thing. It's worked out great for many people, but still having that extra balance where you say, you know what, I love the sport's my job, but I also want to have a little bit of separation. Has that been
Definitely.
big for you? Kind of saying, you know what, my life, my identity, and everything wrapped up is not just me, Vito, the boxer. My life has so many more aspects to it. Has that been something that you've been kind of able to embrace now as you've gone through life?
I think I'm just starting to embrace it. Just
Okay.
realizing, it's more, and obviously boxing's like a small stint of
Yep.
every fighter's life. There's so much more after this. So, yeah, like I started playing golf now. Like I'm just
Mhm.
finding little things for my like idle time. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, Obviously, me and my girl spend a lot of time together. Um, it's more than just boxing for me too. Like you know what I mean? So, and like I told you before, my family is everything to me. Just spending time with them. Um, Everything. Just like you said, it's more than just boxing.
Right. All right, so let's now head into that incredible pro debut for yourself. I know you gave us the story behind it all, but you also have quite the relationship, or at least it seems as though you have a relationship with Deontay Wilder because you make your debut with Wilder Ortiz 2. You fight later on in Wilder Fury 2. Is that something where you had a relationship with him, or how these connections come to be a part of such great cards?
Al Heyman.
All right.
Al Heyman did a great job. Put me on big shows, big cards. You could tell like most of my fights were on major cards.
Yeah.
And even like throughout COVID, like I was the most active fighter throughout COVID. I
Hmm.
think I fought like 5 times throughout COVID. And nobody was fighting even once a year.
Yeah.
And I was fighting on big fights on Channel 5 Fox, in front of the world throughout a time where nobody was being seen.
Hmm.
And Al Heyman really gave me those opportunities, and ultimately I made the most of them.
I've always been someone that I know some people like to become, from the media at least, like to go all in on one promotion, say they're the best and whatnot. I feel like there's so many great promoters and they all bring different great attributes to boxing. But Al Heyman obviously is a very popular one. You know him better than most do. You've seen the way he's helped you and kind of helped molded your career to this point. What is he like? What is he like outside of boxing from what people cannot access and see? What's he like as a person?
He loves his mother. He's a family person.
Mm,
Um, and he's a great guy, great person. Like ultimately cares for his fighters, cares for everyone around him, and takes care of everybody around him. Make sure everyone's good.
I love that. All right, so you go throughout your career, out of all the big cards you've been a part of, not including the ones where you've obviously had lines. Let's say, before you went to obviously this most recent stages, what was your favorite undercard that you were a part of?
Favorite undercard I was a part of. Mm, in terms of like the main event.
Yeah, pretty much that. Like just the overall atmosphere, the building, build up, everything along those lines. The best like experience you'd say you've been a part of, not with you headlining. What would that be?
Probably my Canelo. I think I fought on Canelo Munguia, right? Did I?
I believe so. I think that was the one. I can double check real quick.
Yeah, I
That
think it was
was,
Canelo Munguia.
yeah, it should have been, yeah.
I fought Ronald Cruz. The build up to that fight, like at the press conferences, the fight week, um, everything about it. Yeah, probably that. That was probably my favorite, undercard.
Right. And yes, you did. That was the card. Yep, that was Nokia
I
and
fought under
Canelo.
Ryan and Tank as well.
That's a good point. You did, yeah.
So I was a part of a lot of good big fight weeks. So um, all of them were crazy. Not gonna lie.
Right.
Like even like because the MGM Grand Arrivals, all those like that
That's
was
crazy.
all those were sick. So to be a part of all those at the age I was, it's crazy.
All right, so I do want to go to your very first hiccup you had in your career. James Martin, you end up going to that fight, your very first career loss. That for a lot of guys is detrimental to a lot of guys' mindset. When you take that first loss in your career, how did you handle from that?
Just making it a positive, not making it a loss, but making it a learning experience. And
Love
I
it.
think I did that. Making sure that, I was going into every fight, leaving it all, like not leaving it in the gym, but doing what I have to do in the gym. That fight, I didn't do that, and but I went against a Philly fighter who came in throughout COVID and had an opportunity, and he seized the moment, and I didn't.
You talk about a huge thing there. I feel like I've always said this about guys. Obviously, the Floyd Mayweather era has made the O such an important, critical thing. But when you learn from losses, it can make you such a better fighter moving forward. How did you have that mindset? What instead that, and you just say, you know what? It's a loss. It is what it is. I'm going to bounce back. How did you have that right mentality?
Because I didn't have a plan B. This is
All
this is
right.
my plan. Yeah, you know what I mean. I don't have
Right.
nothing to fall back on. So this, I had no choice but to dig myself out of that hole that I put myself in. And like
Mm,
I said, I have a great team around me. Al Heyman at the time brought me right back home at the Prudential Center. It was set up for a rematch.
yeah.
That night, I was on the phone with Louis, and Louis was like, "What do you want to do next?" And I was like, "I want the rematch." And they made that happen. It just so happened that James came in 8 pounds overweight
Yeah.
uh on the way in, and I was like, "This ain't my father." My team was like, "We're not doing that." You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's that. And then they gave me every opportunity to build myself out of that hole.
I want to ask about that rematch situation because obviously that shows a lot about you to say, you know what, I want to get the rematch immediately. I want to get my get back. When that fell through and he comes in overweight and you have to end up fighting Noah Kid, then what was that experience like? I'm sure that had to be a roller coaster. It's 24, what is it, 48 hours before the fight. What was that experience like?
It was more just like I don't know, like I was a little disappointed more, like
Yeah.
because I was like excited. It was at home. I wanted it to be in front of my hometown, and obviously flip everybody's mindset that they saw in my last fight live on TV. I headlined. I don't know. I didn't headline. I think Michael Coffey was the main event,
Mhm.
but just to be able to change the outlook that people had on me from that one fight
Right.
on that night, and then not being able to do that in that rematch, it sucked. But then you also have to flip the switch to know a kid um, and do what I had to do there.
All right, let's head into Connor Coyle. Valentine's Day. Three different belts were on the line for that fight. You guys end up in a majority draw. I know we kind of highlighted a little bit in the beginning of this, but now that you reflect back on that performance that night, what's your thoughts on it?
I felt as though I won. I felt as
Yeah.
though it was my greatest performance, not even close to my best performance or best Vito Mielnicki on that night. But even on then, I still felt as though I won 7-3, 6-4. Um, but hey, this is boxing. It is what it is. Did you watch the fight?
Yeah, I watched that one. Yep.
What'd
I
you
thought you,
think?
I had you. I think I was going to look back at my scorecard, but I believe I had you up by one round overall. So I think you should have won that one. I don't see the draw
Yeah.
there,
So
but
like even then though, like it was my first fight at 160.
yep,
He was ranked. He still is ranked number three in the BA.
yep. I think I just got moved to
Um.
number two. I think too after this last fight.
Yeah. So listen. Me going up to 60, fighting a guy 21-0, and I felt as though I won the fight. Yeah, I can make the fight way easier next time we fight.
Right,
But to be able to do that, I don't know. It is what it is. Like I said, it's boxing. Obviously, I would have loved to have walked away with my hand raised, but
right.
just another instance of just facing adversity and fighting through it.
You moved up to 160 as you talked about there. When you add in that new aspect of not having to make the drastic weight cut, how much more confident does that make you now moving forward at 160?
Yeah, I'm definitely very confident 160. Those 6 pounds are a lot for people that don't know how weight cutting is. Like those six
Yeah.
pounds kill you, man. So, and I also have a nutritionist. I just hired her for this fight. My last fight, my first time having a nutritionist. I felt great throughout camp. Even the weight cut was like very easy. Didn't have to kill myself.
Mm.
Um, and at to 160, like I still cut like a lot of weight, but those extra 6 pounds to 154 were killing me. And now that I have a nutritionist helping me out, making sure everything's right, it definitely helped me for sure.
You're only 23 years old. Obviously, your body's going to continue to develop as you get older. Do you feel like when you start making that title run, is that going to be at 160, or do you think when you start getting your belt, that's going to be possibly even at 168?
160.
All right. So you see
Probably,
yourself being there for a while then?
yeah, 160 will be where I'm at for sure.
Okay.
I feel really comfortable. I'm definitely, like you said, I'm still growing into my body, but 160 will be where I contend and win for my first world title.
Do you feel like eventually in the future you move to 160, or is 160 where you're going to be for the foreseeable future?
Definitely. I think just naturally, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what you do in boxing. So definitely for sure.
Going back to Connor Cole real quickly. Obviously, both you guys are top ranked. It's been a draw. Is that a fight you want to get back one day?
Definitely
All right.
for sure. But like I said, it's got to make sense. Like,
Yeah.
if my team says, "Hey, that makes sense," then hey, let's do it. But if it doesn't make sense, if the money's not, you know what I mean, then
Right.
we move forward. Obviously, for me, I would love to fight him
Yeah.
just because that's as a competitor, that's what I would want to do. But it's got to make sense.
All right. Come with me before I let you go, Vito. One of which is talk about Ronnie Shields. He's been your trainer now. What's you guys' relationship like?
He's the best.
Mm,
Ronnie, as a boxing trainer, he's the best. He's the greatest of all time, and just as a person, he's even greater.
mm,
In the gym, I've always looked for a trainer who's consistent, and that's literally you look up consistent in the dictionary, you see
mm.
Ronnie's face. He's at the gym at a certain time. You know what you're gonna get out of him. Everything we do in the gym is consistent, and consistent hard work every day. That's what breeds greatness. So that's what we're working towards.
You talk about him outside of the ring, and I've had a couple different guys as part of his group out on the show before, and they always said crazy stories about him. What's your favorite story of Ronnie Shields to this point in time?
Um, Favorite story with Ronnie Shields. I have so many, but I think it's just the little stuff in the gym, like just little stuff. Like my favorite story. All right, so probably my favorite story is when I sat down with Ronnie before my first camp with him, and he was like, all right, yeah, when you come down, like we got a lot of good sparring. And I was like, no problem, like you know what I mean. I didn't know. He was like, hold on, I'm gonna call somebody, and this will be who you're sparring. And we're sitting down at the table, and he called Jamal Charlo. And I was sitting there, and I'm like, "Yo, what's up? Who's this?" And I looked down at the phone. I saw Jamal. I'm like, "Damn, bro." I'm like, "I'm about to spar Jamal, right?" So we get to the gym like a few weeks later when I first got to camp. Um, go to Jamal's house to spar him. Like Jamal's got his gym in his house.
Right.
That was a blessing going there. And then I did probably 150 rounds with Jamal. It was just me and him. We were doing 8 rounds, 10 rounds at a
Mm,
clip. Um, but just that probably just when Ronnie was like, "Yeah, I got a few guys in the gym that you're gonna get great work," and then it ended up he put me on the phone with Jamal Charlo. But like at that time, I was like, Jamal was somebody I watched, like you know what I
right.
mean. So to be, that's one funny story, but there's so many different funny, like great stories just being around Ronnie every day. Um, he's a great person. He's a family man, and that's what I want in a coach for sure.
How old were you when this whole situation happened with Charlo?
No, it wasn't long ago. It was probably like 2 years ago. So
Okay.
like 21 years old. But like I watched Charlo growing up. So it's
Yeah.
like that was somebody who like I was like Jamal Charlo, like one of the twins. Like that's crazy. And to be able to spar him, to be able to have a relationship with him as well, that's a blessing.
How were those rounds for you? And on top of that, as well, to follow up on that, what and how much kind of confidence they give you knowing that you could go in there and spar with a guy of that caliber?
Yeah, the rounds were like championship level rounds. And then on top of it, like every day in the gym, when we would be sparring, there would be like famous rappers, famous football players, like that
Mm,
like I watched growing up, like Andre Johnson, Chad
mm,
Ochocinco, like all these guys are in the gym. Basketball players, Rashard Lewis,
mm.
like rappers that are in there. And it's just like I'm performing. You had Showtime coming in there to record because he fought on Showtime. Like 50, 100 people in the gym just to watch us. Like it was like the word around Houston, like, yo, a great sparring going on at Ronnie Shields. Like Vito, this kid from Jersey sparring Jamal, like putting in
Right.
great work. So it was just like it was a crazy experience for sure.
I love that. Well, I want to wrap up now talking about your future plans. Obviously, we know you just fought a few weeks ago now. When can we see you back in the ring? Is that something you've been discussing? When can we see you back in there?
Yeah, I'll probably be back in the ring. I'd say probably like November in the fall.
Okay.
Um, this will be the first summer I have to like enjoy myself in like probably 5 years. I've been in like training camp or fighting in the summer for like the past 4 or 5 years. So this will be the first time I have some time to just enjoy the summer with my family and everybody and just enjoy myself. So probably like November, I'd say.
Okay. So you say right now you just really want to focus in on kind of taking a step back a little bit, kind of taking a little bit of recovery for the next couple of months then?
Yeah, obviously I still train and everything, even like
Right.
now. But just, trying to like peel back a little bit and then when it's time to hop back in camp, get back to camp. But yeah, I'm still putting in my work, doing what I
All
gotta
right.
do. That doesn't stop.
So when you look at the next opportunity of whoever going to fight then at that point in time, is this something we could see as another fellow rank guy, another guy's kind of building yourself up, or what kind of fight can we expect for that fight?
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe like a former world champ,
Okay.
something along those lines, or a guy like you said, ranked, something like that. Just something like level above, or levels above who I just fought. Like I'm just continue. That's what I want to do. Just continue to climb.
Now, we are already halfway through 2025, a little bit over halfway at this point in time. When you look at the next year, even year and a half, which would put you right about 2027 time, where do you see yourself at that point in time in terms of accomplishments, achievements? Like, where do you see yourself at that point in time?
What in the next what year?
Year and a half. So about, let's say let's call it year and a half, moving into 2027. Like, where do you see yourself in terms of accomplishments, where you stand, all those different types of things?
Ready to fight for my first world title.
All right. I love it.
Probably that's yeah, it's a year and a half. That'll be put me at what 24. Yeah, probably right there.
All right.
Ready to contend for my first world title.
I love it. Well, Vito, I have one final question for you. It's a question like wrapping up every interview with. That's talking about your legacy. When that day does come, I know it's a long way down the road, but when you do put down the gloves, what is it you want to be remembered for what you have accomplished both inside and outside of that ring?
I want to be remembered as a kid from Roseland that stayed humble and kind as he chased greatness and as he reached the goals and dreams that he always dreamt of as a kid.
I love it. Well, Vito, I appreciate you for taking time to come on in, man. It's been a blessing having you on here, and I cannot wait to see what God's got in store for you next, man.
I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Of course, you're always welcome on, man. God bless.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate you guys all for tuning into the interview. I'll have it clipped up, edited out, and then posted on my YouTube channel very shortly. Hope you guys have a great rest of you guys Wednesday. I'll be back on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I hope you guys have an incredible rest of you guys this Wednesday once again. I'll see you guys tomorrow on Thursday. May God bless you guys all. And with that being said, SchuZ out. See you guys tomorrow.